on your left and Sean is on your right.
And Hope is at the camera.
And since we all know each other, I'm going to unbutton my jacket. Okay, what we're looking at today is a solution to a problem. I, as an advisor, decided that I had a problem with a number of my students entering or being in the program. When I advised them, they had either no plan for their education or career, an ill-conceived plan, a pie-in-the-sky plan, or somebody else's plan, somebody who thought they should do something. So I thought, okay, why don't we come up with a solution so that my relationship would change with them and the structure would change. So the student and I would have a different conversation, would have a different kind of relationship, and that they could take responsibility for their educational and career plans. So to come up with a solution, I looked around and thought the most likely place to go would be to Career Services, which is Karen Robinson. After we met and started really working this out, it had to be implemented. So we designed an initiative, we designed a structure, and then it had to make sense, and it had to get to the students, and we wanted our result, we wanted our solution. And that brought in Hope Windle, who has brought it all together for us. Without instructional design, the two of us would not have been able to completely structure this initiative, the roadmap. So we refer to it as the Real World Roadmap because it allows the students to develop an awareness. So we could not call it Real World Awareness because that may be a little too odd. So we called it something that was more tangible and understandable, a roadmap. And so now I'm going to give it over to Karen we're going to talk about the actual structure and how it comes about.
So the ultimate goal is to get students thinking about their long-term career and educational goals right from the get-go in the first semester that they're in the particular program. And it's broken down into a 4-semester plan in the graphic advertising design and graphic program. And it's really to give them the tools to go from the classroom to real employment.
These are the statistics that we were looking at to develop the initiative, the roadmap. We wanted to see basically what was our retention. So we knew that we had an enrollment, and it was fairly consistent, but we wanted to know how many students were staying. And if they weren't staying, why were they leaving? Were they leaving the program to go to another program, or were they leaving the college? We weren't exactly sure. So we wanted to find out what was happening. It was important for the students to have a tool to think about a plan so they just didn't bail out, because something didn't make sense, or it didn't own up to what they thought it was going to do. Maybe graphic design isn't what they want to do. They don't have the maturity or the language to be able to think about that and talk about that with their family, with their friends. The society in their group may not have given them that vocabulary to say, I don't want to do this. So what we were doing with this is we were going to track it. And so we wanted to be able to track who's entering, who's staying, and who's leaving, and why are they doing it, and what tools do they have to make decisions.
And I think a really important part of that was to provide them the safety net, the support that if, they decided this wasn't the right program, it was okay. We'd rather see them making these types of decisions in their first semester versus their third or fourth. I think we're finding as we go through this process, and it really just started in the fall, and it's going to continue for 3 more semesters, and then hopefully it's something that we'll implement all together. But we're learning a lot of things, and we're being flexible in how we're going to reassess it from year to year.
Right. We want to look at the next slide. So what are the benefits? What's really happening? We want students to be clear about what they consider a career, and in this present day, what career means, and are they realistic about that? Are they prepared for it? And also, what sort of education does it take to fulfill the needs of a particular career? So that's what we're really doing with this. So we want them to have the tools, and part of those tools include many services on campus. One of the things we did was we looked around to make sure that we weren't overlooking the services that were already here. We weren't going to create new things. We were going to rely on what already is provided by the college. So career services, the transfer counselor, Dress for Success, Linda Farina with internships, and also the library, and here comes the library again, and I completely agree with you. They're amazing. Librarians love to do research. They love that stuff. I'm so indebted to the library for this project. We developed a subject guide. So we're developing a subject guide so that these students can see how broad the career is, how broad design is, and then they can start to develop their plan. They don't develop their plan until they've actually taken a look at themselves. They go through a number of questions. They are given a survey, they're given questions, and those questions refer to what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, are you applying your strengths to what you're doing and want to do, what do you need to improve in your plan, what is your calendar, can you develop a calendar of times when you want to be somewhere at a certain point in your life. So we do all of this, and we do this to alleviate fear and create awareness. So we want the student to be like that. So now, let's talk about what's in these semesters.
So this is actually teased out in a lot more detail, but in the first semester, it really was about introducing them to the students through resources. We had a nice reception. We got to talk with the students one-on-one. I saw a lot of action going on. I saw students saying they wanted to come see me for further career exploration. I saw students talking to Linda Farina about doing internships already, and this was just their first semester. Sean, in the first semester that we've gone so far, what's been your perception of how prepared students are for academic advisement now in registration?
Can I just jump in for a sec? I think also that everybody should know that when people come to the graphic design program, they think that they're going to come out of the two-year program being able to design and print brochures. And they think that this is pretty much what you do when you take graphic design. And the big picture here is for students to realize there is a huge array of careers that's beyond just printing brochures that have to do with design. Design is this explosion of it has touches on so many different industries now, and there's so many different kinds of designers, and like the instructional designer is a totally new concept for folks in the past 10 years. It's sort of blossomed. And so just to set the stage of what Karen and Sean are talking about is that I don't think students realize what they could possibly be. And so the whole point of the roadmap was to sort of set the stage of this giant array of possibilities. And then from that, the internships and all of the things that Karen are talking about. And also one of the other things was through the mini grant we got a membership to the AIGA, which is the Graphic Design Guild of the United States. And there's a stipend for some people to come and talk to who are already in the field doing different stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Hope's correct. That is a concern of ours, which is so that they're aware and they know the broad scope of design, and that they see the connectedness with that. And they may want to change majors because of that. So just the outcomes, I'd like you to take a look at what we have up here so that you can see how it's going to be rolled out. How it's going to be rolled out is over a 4-semester time, and ultimately what we're looking at is a 2-year study. So it's going to take one cohort 4 semesters to make it through, and that's the group we're really going to see the result with. And so that's what you want to see here, how that's going to happen. So this is the benefit of doing research. So this is what we're finding out.
Okay, so the ART 124 is the first basic course. It's the prerequisite to the second, the third, the fourth graphic design course. So this past fall, there was 23 new students in the major. When we looked at what had happened, 14 returned to the same major in spring of 13. 9 did not continue in the graphic design program. 7 of the 9 had interaction with me in some shape or form in terms of rethinking their career direction. 4 were all withdrawals. 7 did not return to college in general, and 2 actually did change to individual studies. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this cohort, but we have a much better handle on what happened to those who did not stay within the program.
Right, and this leads me back to your question before Hope started explaining the concern in the beginning. Your question to me was, Sean, what did you notice about your advising when it was time to register for spring courses? What I noticed was one of the things I required of all of the design majors, and it is required, for one, they do it, and secondly, that I receive it before I register them. Before they meet with me to register, they tell me their plan. They come up with a plan, and they give me some background information on where they're coming from, how their semester is going, what conclusions they've come to now that they're in the semester, and then also what they plan to do in the spring and the next few semesters out, or even further, whatever it is, so that we have a conversation about them and about their goals. And that is required. And I think it's very helpful to me as an advisor to have them say those things in the first semester rather than the third, like, oh, I'm thinking of doing music. And they say that to me in their 4th semester. And I said, well, we could have given you some electives, but we'll continue from here. So what I have found out with that requirement of that plan, there is a very strong correlation between the students that are ill-prepared for college or very weak or at a low mature level and not writing the plan. And the ones that are very prepared, very eager a lot of the time, write the plan. And so our concern, and when we get to the end, is how do we get them all to do it? Because the most valuable thing about the roadmap is taking action, is doing it. Because the students that write it are more committed. The ones that sit and talk to me in the office, they're not as committed. They're good talkers, but they're not as committed. And we would like to, as this continues, develop ways to have more students, all of the design majors, participate. Because there's a real benefit when I do register the ones that have filled it out. They are more clear, they have different ideas, they actually fill in the registration form, most of them now, before me. And so I'm seeing a big difference. I'm seeing a commitment to the major, and I'm seeing more of a commitment, a mature commitment to themselves and to their lives and how they want to spend their time.
I think we should open up to questions.
Yes, Steve?
Can you go back one slide? Sure. I'm just curious about your outcomes there. Are these tied